Thank you, Mr. McClarty, for joining us today. Let's jump right into the question, shall we?
Yes.
What is your definition of leadership?
Well, when I think of leadership, one word comes to mind, and that is courage. And I think of courage because in leadership you have to have the courage to make difficult decisions. You have to have the courage to make unpopular decisions. You have to have the courage to admit when you're wrong. You have to have courage to admit when you don't know the answer. And so leadership for me is about courage. It's about being able to, again, just to take a stand and to know that sometimes you may be criticized, but at the same time, you know that you know that you know. And that you just have a confidence in yourself that doesn't necessarily have to be kind of a rah-rah type. It can be a quiet, still confidence, but it's still courage. And that's how I define leadership.
Sounds like there's a bit of humility there too, where when you said when you know if you're wrong, you know if you're right, that you are a servant of the people, and you have to take the good and the bad with that.
It is, and also just I think with courage and again just being, I think people respect individuals more when they can admit that I made a mistake, or that they can admit that I don't always know the answer. And I think there is a humility and a humanness factor. And again, it doesn't diminish your knowledge. It doesn't diminish who you are as the person in charge. It just also shows that I'm just like the people that I'm in charge of leading, that I sometimes have my doubts, I sometimes have my fears. But I think the one thing also, getting back to that word courage, is that leaders have the ability to, again, be courageous and to not have fear hold them back. That they channel that fear into positive energy so that they can move forward and accomplish the task at hand.
Excellent answer. As an emerging leader in the Metro Atlanta region, what have you learned from past leaders, African-American leaders, that you have either associated with, that you've read about, or that you've admired from afar?
Wow, I think being a native of the Atlanta area, there's certainly so much, and also being someone that is into history. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is just the ability to keep moving forward and to keep plugging away. I think when you look at many of our past leaders here in the Atlanta area, whether it's someone that was worldly known as a Dr. King, or even if it was someone who was just perhaps maybe the elementary school principal, and anything in between, I think it's the fact that, you know, in the face of adversity, they were able to continue to move forward. And I think that's the biggest thing that I gather from looking at the leaders in the Atlanta area over time. It's just that you have to always continue to plug away. I have a personal motto that I always tell myself to just show up. And I feel that if I can just show up, that eventually if I show up long enough, I'll be the last person standing. But that when things get difficult, but that's when you just have to, regardless as to knowing that you may be going into an adversarial situation, but you have to just make yourself show up. And a lot of times I think that's where it's not giving up. It's not giving in.
Perseverance.
It's perseverance.
What do you think are some of the major issues confronting African Americans in the Metro Atlanta region for the 21st century?
You know, I think for me, in a broader sense, is economics. And that is, I think, you know, we gradually see that there is such a division between those that have opportunity and those that don't have opportunity. And for those that have opportunity, what that means is that they're exposed, they have education, they are around people that have interesting or have burgeoning careers, and that could be everything from whether or not they are, again, someone maybe in education, or whether there's an executive on the 20th floor of one of the tallest buildings in Atlanta, or whether they're just going to work at the local maybe the local distribution facility. But again, there's this big gap between those that have and those that don't have. And the ones that don't have, you're starting to see where, because perhaps they don't have the same values in education, maybe some of the same things that perhaps we may hold dear in terms of family values or what have you,
Right.
you're starting to see this cycle that's always perpetuated, in the sense that it's passed down from, maybe the grandmother to the daughter to then, the grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
And so whereas again, looking on the other side, when, maybe your father or your mother was educated or a professional or what have you, there's just a certain level of expectations that come, and there's some things that you don't even think about in terms of, will I go to college? It's a matter of, where will I go to college?
Right.
And then it's not a matter of, I hope I get a good job. It's a matter of, what do I want to do when I leave college?
Right.
And then, are my parents connected to where they can pick up the phone call and make some calls, or facilitate some introductions, and doing the internships, and being able to take vacations to where you can actually, if you're talking about, say for instance, this country, and you're talking about its courts, and being able to go to Washington D.C.
Right.
and to be able to go and see the White House, or if you're studying African American history, and you want to go over to and see where Dr. King gave the famous "I Have a Dream" speech, or again, just looking at all of the different things, because then it becomes real. Right. When you can actually reach out and you can touch it.
It's tangible.
It's tangible. And now everything, when you start to watch the footage on television, or when you're reading it in a book, so I've seen that. But again, when you're on that other side of the fence, the only thing that you can fathom is that neighborhood that's surrounding you.
Right.
And all you can see is the fact that my next door neighbor is unemployed, or you can see that the person around the corner is not doing much. And so who do you have to aspire to? And so to me, a lot of things now are starting with economics, and just, what do you have at your disposal to be able to move forward?
Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.